what's the policy of government towards rice production in the country?
You know, we were saying before the break about the issue of importation of rice and the fact that Nigeria actually has a lot of land. We have 84 million hectares of land, a lot of water, great sunshine, all over. So we produce rice all the way from Sokoto down to the south, right? But because we are importing so much rice, it has killed our own domestic rice industry. And it has killed investment in the critical processing capacity that you need to make long grain, parboiled, quality rice. Nigerians want that kind of rice. Now, what we have done as a government is first and foremost to close a loophole in which people make easy money and flood this place with cheap rice. They'll bring in finished rice from India and Thailand, and they would disguise it as brown rice, okay, which attracted a lower tariff. And so that's been pounding us. That's like water pounding this economy every year while they make a lot of money. Now, what Mr. President did was to close that loop and say, so that's why you see the coordinating minister of the economy raise, the tariff with respect to the brown rice to equalize that. Once we've done that, we also announced that all equipment, machinery that you need to process is going to attract 0% duty. This is what has happened actually in the last 1 year. We had 13 new mills by the private sector that have kicked in. All of them with a total installed capacity of 240,000 metric tons. That is about 10% of the total amount we import today. You have Mikap in Benue, 10,000 metric tons capacity. You have Achi in Benue, 10,000 metric ton capacity. Ebonyi rice mill, in Ebonyi State with 10,000 metric ton capacity. Umza in Kano, with a great rice, by the way, in Kano. He has expanded his capacity from 30,000 to 60,000. The Lagos State government has invested in a new rice mill. Now we have so many others in process. That's 240,000 capacity added just in the rice sector alone in the last couple of months.
The question will be, do they get local rice from here to feed those mills?
Yes, actually they do. I wish I had it on camera here, the Ebony rice. They buy rice from the entire area in the Abakaliki area. The key is the local rice that people say, they complain about. So it's broken, it's colored, it has sand, it smells because of the way of the fermentation. All that is changed rapidly. This Ebony rice, Umza rice, Achi rice, if you eat that rice, you will never taste any other foreign rice. It is very nutritious rice, long grain, parboiled, high quality rice, and we are proud of that. That is coming out of Nigeria. The other thing that we are doing, with regard to the rice policy, is Mr. President said, that Nigeria should become self-sufficient by 2015. He's right. Here is the reason. Today we are consuming 5 million metric tons of rice. By the year 2050, because our population is rising, urbanization, income growth, you know how much we'll be consuming? We'll be consuming 36 million metric tons of imported rice. That will cost us, by that time, $150 billion every year just to import rice. And so by having a domestic rice self-sufficiency strategy, you keep your foreign exchange, you create markets for your own farmers. And that's why, again, Mr. President helped in this when we went to China. We were able to negotiate to have the cheaper financing for 100 large-scale integrated rice mills. And that will allow Nigeria, for the first time ever, to have the full milling capacity to mill all the rice that we are importing at high international quality standard. But production must be dealt with, and we are doing that.
Is there a ban on importation of rice?
No, there is no ban on importation of rice, but effectively there's going to be tariff is set so that we will just make it more difficult for you.
Because an average Nigerian on a daily basis consumes rice, and so one would expect that by now we should have looked into all of that. And by the way, how come now you say we no longer see stones and sand in our rice? Is the government helping the farmer?
No, what we're doing is helping those that actually have the mills. Once you have a great mill, you have the stoners in it, you polish the rice, you know. So the rice mills that we are getting from China are actually world-class mills that will produce rice that beats any rice from Thailand or from India, industrial scale, not very tiny little mills. So that's why we are, you know, by 2015, but God helping us, we will have for the first time in our history that capacity. Now, I was saying about production. We are working with the Ministry of Water. Mr. President has directed that we work to ensure that the dams that were not completed are completed. In fact, no new projects, complete existing projects. The Ministry of Water is working very hard to complete the infrastructure around some of the irrigation facilities that we have. And that will allow us to double crop on these areas. We are working with China right now on a technology that we have tested in Kebbi State. It's called hybrid rice. Hybrid rice in China gives you a yield of 12 tons per hectare. That is 6 times the yield you get in Nigeria. We've been testing it for the last 1 year in Kebbi State. We are getting 8 tons per hectare. That means that if we can, when we get those into irrigated perimeters in Nigeria, we can double crop. You easily can get 10, 12 tons per hectare. That allows us to ramp up production. So I've actually launched a national accelerated program to expand paddy production around the clusters of mills that we have. So it's a structural issue, and we are working hard on it.
When we talk about all of this, one wonders what has happened to the farmers. We remember there was a time we saw them even on television way back then, and the government was giving them fertilizers when it wasn't even farming season for that particular produce. And people wonder how come sometimes we turn things upside down even for the farmer. And how is it easy for the farmer, the average farmer, the ordinary farmer, to get these incentives from the government, be it loans, be it fertilizers and others, because they still complain that those who get them are the big farmers. The man who has left politics, the next thing you see, he has a big farm, he has taken over his community, and he's doing well. But the small man there has nothing to show for it, who's been there for years.
Yeah. You know, this is exactly why the agricultural transformation...
Still within your purview, I guess, as the Minister of... There's an appendage, rural development.
Yes, but you see, my job as Minister of Agriculture, when I had the honor and privilege of being asked by His Excellency, the President, to come back home and help my country, my job is... He did not tell me my job description is to import food. No. He told me my job is to help us produce food and to put the farmers at the center of it. My job is not to please political farmers, no. Those are politicians. We have farmers that must be getting their inputs. And one of the critical inputs that farmers needed to always be getting was fertilizers. But the fertilizer sector was probably the most corrupt sector in this country. Because as rightly said, the government was buying fertilizer, distributing fertilizers. It never got to farmers. Only 11% of farmers were getting it. So some people were laughing all the way to the bank, taking the fertilizer that belonged to smallholder farmers and giving it away and exporting it out of the country. One of the things that people need to realize that it took this government it took us 90 days to clean up a corruption of several decades. We took the government out of fertilizer procurement and distribution. It's not a job of government to buy and sell fertilizer. The role of government is to support farmers. We clean up that mess within 90 days. Today, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture does not buy and does not distribute fertilizer. That's not a job of government. The only reason that was going on was because a number of fat cats were making money from it. And the farmers were not getting what they needed. So what we have done, we have set up a new program called a growth enhancement support. That means the fertilizer companies and the seed companies cannot bring fertilizer and seed to my warehouse as a minister. The ministry is not the farmer. You have to take your stuff back to the farmers directly like everybody else. What we have done is that we've been able to get great support from the Minister of Quality Minister of the Economy and the Central Bank Governor. We were able to raise 30 billion naira from banks in Nigeria to finance the seed companies and fertilizer companies to be able to get their supplies.
To the farmers.
Yes, and get it out. We have also moved to what we call use of electronic wallet. So we've done a census in the last several months of farmers. We want to reach 5 million farmers every year. So we have a database of that, and we continue to build on that. So a farmer gets an alert on their phone because we have your information. So you get the support from government, say 50% subsidy for seed for fertilizer. So you get 5,750 naira on your phone. You add the remaining 5,750 to it. You go to the agro dealer, the input retailer that's there at the redemption center. They call your number, it's certified in the system, you pick up your bags of fertilizers and you go home. There's no politician between you and your fertilizer, no local government chairman, the things you used to have. You know, this has increased the transparency within the system, accountability within the system. You know, we've gone across the country. Mr. President gave myself, my Minister of State, the permission to go across and help to launch this across the country. We've been on the field now for about 3 weeks.